Welcome to Cena Pro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The Monstrum movie. An old man took care of a small, gentle creature, but after 10 years, it grew into a massive, merciless monster. Now, it devours anyone in its path. In the year 1506, a man named Yang gathered a group of rebels, staged a coup against the king, seized full control of the kingdom, and eliminated all forms of resistance. At the same time, a deadly disease spread across the kingdom, something akin to an epidemic. The king ordered that all infected individuals be killed. Indeed, the guards took all the poor peasants, threw them into a deep pit, and killed them all. Amid the chaos, a woman approached the guards, pleading with them to spare her because she was healthy. But the guards ignored her pleas, killed her, and threw her into the pit. Fortunately, the girl was still alive. She tried shaking her dead mother to wake her up, but sadly, her mother had passed away. After some time, a brave man descended into the pit and took the child with him. At night, terrifying sounds would emanate from the pit. 10 years later, Yang received news that monsters had started appearing in the mountains, in the same place where the pit of the executed was located. These monsters were killing people, causing terror among the population. This posed a significant threat to Yang's throne, as the people might rebel against him at any moment. He decided to find a definitive solution to this issue. We then transition to the forest, where we see Yoon, his daughter Myung, and his friend Song. The three were trying to hunt any animal to eat, but unfortunately, they failed. So they went to the river to try fishing, but they failed there as well. The three returned to their home. There, Myung asked her father to move from their remote location to somewhere closer to the king's palace so they could eat proper food. But Yoon refused her request for the 9th time, saying they would remain in the forest as they were. Later, she gathered plants to make soup. Meanwhile, a mysterious person approached the house and started peeking through its windows. As soon as Myung saw him, she raised her bow and asked who he was. The mysterious man introduced himself as Hor, saying he was there on orders from the king. Myung didn't understand Hor's words, as her father and his friend were just ordinary peasants. At that moment, Song surprised Myung, causing her to accidentally shoot an arrow at Hor, but Hor dodged it, and their eyes met. Both felt something strange the moment their eyes locked, falling in love at first sight. Yoon emerged at the commotion, and Hor told him he was there on the king's orders. Myung was shocked to learn that Song and her father were once the king's best guards. Yoon refused to go with Hor and asked him to leave, but Hor returned, this time with the king himself. Everyone bowed as the king arrived, and Yoon went inside with him to talk. We then flash back to 10 years earlier. Yoon entered the king's court with the little girl he had rescued from the pit in his arms, telling everyone present that she was healthy and not infected. But the king rejected her presence, shocking everyone with his reaction. Yoon became very upset with the king's refusal, and he began speaking about incomprehensible things, like how there was no disease, and how the king had unjustly killed half his people. At that moment, all the guards raised their swords against Yoon, and no one defended him except his friend Song. The king decided to exile Yoon and Song, stripping them of their positions. The two went to live in the forest. Returning to the present, we see King Jong pleading with Yoon to rejoin him. He told him about a dangerous monster spreading the disease again, killing many civilians. After finishing his plea, the king handed Yoon his sword and asked him to stand with the kingdom one last time. Yoon couldn't sleep all night, deep in thought. In the end, he decided to return to the kingdom and stand by the people. Elsewhere, a group of priests were performing special rituals to ward off the monster from the kingdom. But suddenly, the priests were killed, and the river turned red. We then see a little girl at the scene of the incident. As soon as she witnessed what happened, she ran away in terror. Yoon, Song, and Myung arrived in the capital. They were surprised by the state of the city, which had turned into ruins. Even the wealthy citizens couldn't find food to eat. As soon as Yoon saw Hor, he asked him to lead them to the priests who had been killed. When they arrived, Yoon examined the corpses and noticed rope marks on their legs. Yoon interrogated the girl who witnessed the incident. The girl told him that a terrifying monster was responsible, but strangely, she didn't seem afraid of its presence. Yoon decided to follow the girl. He saw a masked man giving the girl a basket before quickly leaving. Song followed the masked man, but unfortunately, the man mounted his horse and left the area. Yoon approached the girl and discovered that the masked man had given her a basket of food, which was meant for other children younger than her. The girl confessed to Yoon, admitting that she hadn't seen any monster. She had lied to secure food for her family, as the monster rumors had made people afraid to leave the city, affecting the kingdom's economy and causing a famine. Later, another attack occurred in the mountains. When Yoon and Song went there, they found knife marks on the corpses, as well as a strange rash on their bodies. They also found a corpse hanging by a rope from a tree, raising suspicions since no monster would hang a body on a tree. Yoon went to the king and told him he suspected that the deaths were caused by humans, not a monster, but the killers were professionals, making it look like the monster was responsible. They also mentioned the strange rash and conducted tests on it. Yoon brought a rat close to the corpses, and the rat developed the rash within seconds, dying within hours. At that point, Yoon was determined to uncover who was behind these crimes. King Jong ordered the formation of a team led by Yoon, tasking them with investigating the matter. The minister told the king that his army consisted of only 100 men, so they needed to recruit volunteers from the peasants. Indeed, the guards went to the peasants, arresting them and dragging them by force. Myung disguised herself as a boy to join the new recruits, but Yoon discovered her. Hor then convinced Yoon to let her join them. The new army set out on their mission to find the monster, but they only found something strange: a red substance on the trunk of a tree. After the search, Song told Myung they hadn't found any trace of the monster and suggested returning to the kingdom before nightfall. But the royal army commander Jin wasn't convinced, ordering Yoon and his group to continue their search for the monster. He also told them that the monster hunts its prey at night, making it the best time to catch it. Yoon carried out the orders given to him, divided his men into groups, and continued the search simultaneously. King Jongga was speaking with his minister and told him he was sure the monster would become a legend, allowing him to regain the people's trust. He also said he was certain someone was behind these incidents. At night, nothing strange happened, but an old man got separated from the group, and Yoon had to search for him. After searching for a while, Yoon didn't find the old man, but found himself standing at the edge of the pit where the king had killed people. Yoon was deeply disturbed by the sight, while Myung felt the place was unsettling to her. Yoon took his group, along with Myung, Song, and Hor, to search for any clues near the pit. Indeed, they found strange footprints on the ground. Meanwhile, Jin ordered all the peasants with them to descend into the pit. As soon as they did, he commanded his guards to kill all the peasants. The soldiers executed Jin's orders and brutally killed all the peasants. After finishing off the peasants, Jin ordered one of the soldiers to shoot a flaming arrow into the sky. The flaming arrow signified that Jin had found the monster. At that moment, Yoon gathered all his soldiers and rushed toward Jin. Jin betrayed Yoon just as he had betrayed the peasants, ordering his guards to eliminate Yoon's group. A fierce battle broke out between the two sides. In the end, only Yoon, Song, Myong, and Hor were left facing Jin and his men. Suddenly, a soldier shot an arrow toward Yoon, but Song shielded Yoon with his body, taking the arrow in his arm. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to recover because a net was thrown over him and Yoon. Moreover, the soldiers captured Hor and Myong and tied them up together. Jin confessed to Yoon, admitting that his soldiers were the ones killing the peasants in the mountains to spread fear among the kingdom's people, ensuring their loyalty and obedience. Myong overheard Jin's words, recalled the tragic events she had experienced, and tried to attack Jin to free herself from the ropes. However, Jin threw her and Hor into the pit. Fortunately, Myong and Hor got caught on a rock. Yoon was distressed about his daughter and vowed to take revenge on Jin. Jin mocked Yoon and ordered his soldiers to kill Yoon and his companions, making it appear as though they were killed by the monster. Jin's soldiers shot arrows at Yoon's group, but they managed to dodge them. Suddenly, the soldiers heard a strange and terrifying sound coming from the pit. Moments later, enormous claws appeared. The monster was horrifying. The monster climbed out of the pit within seconds, stood before Jin and his men, and killed the soldier who had been shooting arrows. Jin ordered his soldiers to shoot arrows at the monster, but the monster was unaffected and attacked Jin's soldiers ferociously. During this time, Song and Yoon managed to free themselves and ran toward the pit. There, they discovered that all the corpses in the pit had strange rashes on them. Yoon told them they needed to deliver this news to the king as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, the monster decided to return to the pit. Suddenly, the old man who had gone missing earlier appeared before them and told them to cover themselves in the dirt from the pit so they would smell like the monster, preventing it from recognizing them. The old man also explained that the monster had poor vision, but was extremely sensitive to smell and movement. Indeed, the monster descended into the pit and couldn't recognize them. However, a piece of flesh from Jin's soldiers got stuck in its throat, causing it to vomit near Mayong. Taking advantage of the monster's distraction, the group tried to escape the pit. They succeeded in finding a cave nearby. Unfortunately, the monster detected their scent, particularly Mayong's, as the vomit had washed off the dirt covering her. The group ran through the cave, reaching its end, where they had to jump off a ledge into the water below. They jumped, and the monster got stuck at the narrow end of the cave, unable to follow them. Later, it was revealed that Jin and some of his men had survived and returned to the palace. It was also revealed that Minister Sim was the mastermind behind the plot to kill people, aiming to make the citizens lose trust in the king. However, Jin brought Sim unsettling news, informing him that the monster was real. Sim then ordered Jin to spread fear among the people, causing them to rise against the king, making it easier for Sim to take his place. Some of the peasants who had joined the search party managed to return to the city, but they were all infected with the strange rash. The healthy citizens avoided them, fearing infection. The soldiers burned the infected peasants in their homes to prevent the disease from spreading. Meanwhile, the old man guided Yoon and his group through a secret passage that led them to the palace. The passage ended in a strange room filled with large cages. The old man explained that the previous king had been fascinated with raising exotic animals and had built a special area for them. The old man had been responsible for feeding these animals. When Jonga overthrew the previous king and took his place, he ordered the extermination of all the exotic animals. The old man had helped one of these creatures escape through a secret passage. Unfortunately, this creature ended up living in the pit, where it fed on the corpses of the massacre's victims. It, too, became infected and turned into the merciless monster. At that moment, the monster entered the palace through the secret passage. The old man shouted for the group to escape and pulled out a toy the monster used to play with, trying to distract it. Strangely, the monster responded and entered its cage. However, when the old man locked the cage, the monster glared at him with hatred, broke out effortlessly, and killed the old man. Meanwhile, Minister Sim addressed the people, promising to care for the wounded and provide them with food and shelter. Unfortunately, the poor citizens believed his lies and even thanked him. Yoon and his team reached the king and told him the entire story about the monster. Suddenly, Sim stormed the place, and one of his soldiers shot an arrow at Jonga, injuring him. Sim's rebellious soldiers killed Jonga's guards, and the monster endured in its place while Sim's soldiers tried to kill it, but the monster was stronger than them and killed them effortlessly. At the same time, Myung pretended to be sick, coughing persistently. The family followed her lead, creating chaos among the soldiers who were afraid of getting infected. In that moment, the family managed to free themselves and even attacked Sim's soldiers. The soldiers were preoccupied with the monster, and they eventually managed to overpower and restrain it. Meanwhile, Yoon reached the king with a group of loyal soldiers and ordered them to protect and treat the king. Sim commanded his soldiers to drag the monster out of the palace to burn it in front of the people. However, the monster managed to free itself from its restraints and threw the strange red substance that Yoon had seen in the forest at the soldiers. The soldiers began to fall ill at an alarming rate, prompting Sim to flee with some of his guards, abandoning the place. Yoon then started planning with his group to trap the monster. They agreed on a plan, with Yoon deciding to act as bait. Meanwhile, people stormed the king's palace, seeking refuge from the illness, but Sim Young confronted them, telling them the monster was inside the palace. Not only that, but she also revealed that Sim was behind all the disasters, including burning their homes and killing their families. The people surrounded Sim and took their revenge on him. After they had enough, they forced him into the palace and locked him inside with the monster. Yoon lit a flaming arrow to lure the monster, while Hure and Song went to the basement to fill it with explosives. At that moment, Jin appeared, but he was covered in a rash and wanted to kill Hure. A battle ensued between the two, ending with Hure killing Jin. However, Jin refused to give up, so Myungjo aimed her arrow at him. Jin hid behind Hure's body, and Myungjo asked Hure to dodge the arrow the same way he had done before. Her plan worked, and she managed to kill Jin. Returning to Yoon, we see him fleeing from the monster, leading it to the desired spot. He lit a torch and threw it at the fuse, but unfortunately, the fuse didn't ignite completely. Yoonjo came up with a crazy idea. He threw his companion out of the basement, asking him to take care of Myungjo, and locked himself inside with the monster. He managed to reignite the fuse, and moments later, the entire palace exploded. Myung was devastated by grief over her father and couldn't believe he had sacrificed himself for her. The next day, rain washed everything away, and the monster perished in the explosion. The people reopened the palace gates and entered. Myung searched for her son among the rubble, and suddenly, she heard a faint voice coming from beneath. She searched the source of the sound and eventually found her father. The people helped Myung pull Yoon out from under the debris just in time, saving him. Finally, the day she came, she was reunited with her father again, and people celebrated their brave warrior. After that, we see that Byung-hyun lived in the palace with her lover Aur, and Yoon Sambi returned again to their house in the forest. And on the way, Song asked Yoo how he got out of this terrible explosion alive, and Yoon told him that he used a rope to get away from the explosion at the last moment, and here we have reached the end of our movie. Thank you for watching.